This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to Canada as I See It. Hello, and welcome to this week's podcast. I'd like to thank Monica for introducing the show this week. Monica emailed me out of the blue at whorpole.ca, and she let me know that she likes to listen to the podcast, and she did in fact send along the introduction. Thank you so much, Monica. I really do appreciate it. A really neat thing about her message to me was that she said she used to take Canadian history in university, and she quite likes the way that I relate the facts to you, which is incredibly ironic because, as you may recall, I only ever took one history class in high school. And it's been since then that I've really enjoyed learning about our country and every country and letting you know about it. So thank you. So in the spirit of me taking a whole bunch of really dry historical facts and making them relatable, I present to you the second annual Mixed Bag podcast. I did one, since it's an annual thing, you can safely assume that it was last year on March the 3rd. But this is the second time I'm doing this. Mark your calendars for next year, 2026, sometime in March. This episode now comes up once a year, and it celebrates me collecting a whole bunch of Canadian facts and realizing that the original t-shirt that I used to gain my subject matter for most of these shows, well, it had as many duds as they had Canadian facts. So really, I should probably start looking for more facts, lest you listen to me chatter on for a long time each week. Well, you like doing that, right? Of course you do. First off, though, I want to take a look at a couple of things that happened yesterday. That's March the 29th, back in Canadian history. A lot of the facts that I get about these big days in Canadian history come from a site called todayincanadianhistory.com. Pretty straightforward. I'll post it on my webpage, whorpole.ca, but really, wouldn't you rather just listen to me talk about it? Of course you would. Of course. Two big things. First off, yesterday, in 1867, you can hear where this is going, 1867, there was the proclamation of the British North America Act, and that established the Dominion of Canada. And 1982, Queen Elizabeth II gave royal assent to the Canada Act, 1982, to patriate Canada's constitution. So March 29th seemed to be that unknown big day in Canadian history. Okay, so now on to today, March 30th. In 1809, the Labrador Act gave Labrador to Newfoundland, with all the watersheds flowing into the Atlantic. These boundaries were, of course, disputed by Quebec because really, at one point, it was theirs. But I'll tell you why all this happened. There was the 7 Years' War that happened in 1756, and guess when it ended? 7 years later, in 1763. This was also known as the French and Indian War in North America, and it was a pretty major conflict fought between Britain and France and their allies in Europe, North America, India. And at sea, there were ships and that out there, and really, it resulted in a shift of global power, with Britain emerging as a dominant colonial and naval force, and France really losing its North American territories. You might recall back then, before the U.S. was a thing, France controlled most of North America. And it was during that war that Great Britain expelled the Acadian people, those of French ancestry, from the area that they controlled in North America. And a significant number of them settled in Louisiana on the Gulf Coast, where they became known as Cajuns. Basically because the Americans of the area could not pronounce Acadia or Canadian, and they just sort of contracted it. And from there, well, not complaining again, we got beignets, that wonderfully melodic accent, and Channing Tatum's portrayal of the Marvel character Gambit. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. In 1763, the British government organized all the territories and created the province of Quebec. And there was a proclamation at that time that stated that to the end that the open and free fishery may be extended to and carried on the coast of Labrador, we have thought fit to put all that coast from the River St. John's to Hudson Straits under the care and inspection of our Governor of Newfoundland. I don't know if that's how it sounds, but it sounded very proclamation-like. Okay. So that line, that it took away a bit of Quebec and gave it to Newfoundland, that really wasn't defined totally until 1949, when Newfoundland was brought into Confederation and became a part of Canada. So 1763, let's jump forward. 1832, we have the incorporation of the Bank of Nova Scotia, now known as Scotiabank, and the sponsor of the arena where the Toronto Maple Leafs play. In 1834, William Lyon Mackenzie was appointed the first mayor of Toronto. 1872, the first issue of the Toronto Mail newspaper was published. That's part of today's Globe and Mail. 1885, the city of Stratford was incorporated, and my sister, Judy, lives down there. Let's see, 1972, well, this is a tough one. In 1972, the Royal Canadian Navy sailors were given their very last daily rum ration. So from then on, they had to figure out how to get it themselves. So a really interesting thing happened to the podcast this week. I usually have an average of 10 to 15 people downloading the podcast every day, sometimes none, and sometimes up to 20. Last Monday, which was curious, because usually I get a higher number on Sunday, but last Monday I had a bump of 81 people downloading the podcast that day. It's not just the one that I did last week, the whole library of 74 episodes up till now. I'm not really sure why. It was a curious aberration, but really, again, I'm not complaining. That makes a total of over 2,000 total downloads of my podcast, and that just blows my mind. Thank you so much. I did look a little deeper into it, and I discovered that I now have listeners on 5 continents around the world. Amongst that, let's see, there's 10 states across the U.S., 3 provinces across Canada, 3 states across Germany, England, Ukraine, Malaysia, Hungary, Thailand, France, Russia. It's beginning to sound like a Billy Joel song, isn't it? Spain, Japan, Norway, and most recently, New South Wales in Australia. Now, have I missed your country? If you think I have, please let me know. Email me at asiseeit@whorpole.ca, whorpole.ca, and why not include a recording of you introducing the podcast like Monica did this week? This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, to the 75th episode of Canada as I See It, and I will talk to you again next week. And that's a part of Canada as I See It. It is written and produced by me, James Whorpole, and brought to life by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Our theme song is Night Owls by Braden Deal. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at asiseeit@whorpole.ca. Join us every Sunday for another episode of Canada as I See It.